Prior to the parade, the steam traction engines were lined up in a row so that you could see them close up. It was pretty interesting. This is the Burrell, considered to be the Rolls-Royce of steam engines by many. Okay, so this is the traction engine that was driving the threshing machine that you can see in the other video clip linked here.
And ended up derelict beside the Sutton Road, and in the early 60s Stan Burgess purchased her and restored her to the condition.
Okay, so the engines come in to this open area, the parade ground, and they do a tour of the ground, and then they're going to line up in a row so we can see the whole range of steam traction engines that are here. This is the Earl Haig, a massive steam traction engine in perfect condition. It looks like it was built yesterday.
Okay, now passing the commentary point, Earl Haig, as I commentated on previously. Driven by Mr. Reg Brown, which is slightly worrying sight, but he seems to be well in control. Steered by Andrew Whaling of Wisbech St Mary. I understand.
The commentary from the guy is out of sequence because he's about halfway down the field, and so as the vehicles are passing in front of him, he's giving the commentary, but I'm at the gate entrance, so it's a little bit out of sequence. This is an exact replica of the Earl Haig. Here you can see the two of them in the field together. Yeah, incredibly detailed.
Number 67 is the 4-inch scale Burrell Simplicity, which was built in 2006 and purchased by the present owner in June 2013. So a new owner, he seems to be managing very well. Having had it on the back of the low loader on Wednesday, I can assure you it weighs a damn sight more than that. This particular one was built in 1920 for Essex County Council. Essex County Council had no end of ailing rollers through their hands at their time. It wasn't unheard of them to buy a batch of 10 or a dozen. Fancy that, just imagine it now. This one was restored in 1997 by Mr. Matt Garwood and carries its original scarifier. As it comes round, see it, it's a scarifier. For those of you that don't know, this is fitted with 2 tines that can be wound down into the road surface and tear the road up. Now you might think tearing the road up is a strange thing to do with a steamroller, but of course once you've torn it up and one of your minions has raked it level, you roll it flat again. This particular one is owned by the Filk family from Castle Hedingham, and it is driven by Adam and Angie Rist from Bury St Edmunds, and that's sponsored by TNS. is not an auction. This is the wrong engine. But in my humble opinion, it's the better engine. Being a Ruston and being built in Lincoln, you can't really get any better than that. This is a compound agricultural engine. If you look as it comes round, you'll see it's got 2 cylinders for more effective use of steam. Now here is a lovely surprise exhibit. Did he take the number out of the window? I knew it was coming, he told me. Into attractants from the front. This is only the second rally it's attended in its current ownership. It's owned by Mr. Alan Marchington of Bury St Edmunds and driven by him and Patrick, and is sponsored by the Museum of East Anglian Life. And that's followed by a Fowler traction engine, a very fine Fowler. This one's owned by Mr. Holman, who's been coming to Haddenham for many years. So much so he's got a Heather Holman from Cranfield and sponsored by David Freer Plumbing. And Fowlers, for those of you who don't know, were built in Leeds, and some people like them.
You'll notice this traction engine's tax disc is up to date, so it's road legal. Parade ground's getting rather busy now, full of engines. A little bit of a traffic jam going on.
And that's followed by another very regular attendee at Haddenham. It is Mr. Watts with his Marshall Compound Punch. Bought by Gainsborough Council in 1901 as a convertible roller. Worked for them till 1958. Bought by the present owner in 1983. She's sponsored by SR Harradine Haulage, and I should imagine she attended the event under her own steam. She usually does. They sold it to John Mehew at Bluntisham. Purchased by the present owner in 1986 after standing in a shed for 21 years. I'm not entirely sure why the present owner stood in a shed for 21 years, but that's what it says here. Much restoration work has been carried out. These are the fine standard today. I always think engines look particularly fine in maroon. And this one is sponsored by Biffa Waste Services. Completely overhauled by Stan Burgess of Haddenham. Recently purchased by the present owner, who is undertaking extensive running restoration. But it's lovely to see it here. It's owned and driven by Mr. Richard Maskell from Wellstead in Bedfordshire, and sponsored by Frank Turner Limited. And that's followed by the old Clayton. A new regular at Haddenham, you could say. This is the third visit for Mr. Garwood. And she was built in 1899 and is believed to be the oldest Clayton traction engine in existence. She was new to George Harris from Hampshire, purchased in 1907, and between 1977 and 1980, Mr. Garwood, who's there at the controls, restored her from derelict. Still owned by the Philp family from Castle Hedingham, but exhibited from John Garwood. Sponsored by Ornamental Engineering, and I can say, having driven the engine a couple of miles on the road on Thursday afternoon, what a pleasure that was. The tar tank and sprayer, and it spent its whole working life there. It was acquired by George Cushing, but George actually acquired 2 of them, and deciding he didn't need 2, he let Alan Bloom of Bressingham have the other, before returning to Steam in 2012, but is owned by the Saunders Collection and sponsored by W. Smith Scrap Metals. This one's followed by a Burrell traction engine. Burrell, some consider the Rolls-Royce of engines, built at Thetford by blacksmiths. This particular one, Old Lytham, was built in 1898. New to Isaac Bull and Sons of Lancashire. Isaac Bull engines quite often have, as this one does, a 3/4 length cab. Okay, this is 1903, carries works number 9009. She was re-imported from Africa. The engine has had new wheels, tender, belly tanks, flywheel, shafts and bearings. Only 30% of the engine is now original. The rest was built new by the Whitwell family of York, who own her. It's nice to see you here again. This engine sponsored by Sheffins. She worked till the mid-60s with its original owners. Completely rebuilt over the last 3 years. I see this engine's fitted with coil springs on the back. It must be lovely on the road, particularly with those nice new rubbers. This is the Fowler ploughing engine, Sevington. In the arena, you have a look underneath. There's a big rope drum. Now, those of you that have been other years may have actually seen the engines being used in anger. This is, of course, a ploughing engine, since purchased in 1999, and that is owned by Mr. John Mann from Hardwick, and sponsored by PD Fair Fruit Growers from Colne. This is a new engine to the event. Another burrel, a very fine. These engines are very popular for timber work, pulling trees out, loading them, winching. As such, they were very prone to wear in their gears.
These 5 engines attended the first Haddenham Rally 40 years ago.